What's up guys, Cameron Callahan here. I work for the Muck-Off FXR Club MX Yamaha racing team, and we're going to take you through Jeremy Martin's race bike today. Starting at the front of the bike, we run a Mika SX bar bend. It's one of the lower bends. We take the crossbar off. Luxon made a new clamp for us this year with multiple options for bar positions. Jeremy actually settled on -4 compared to stock, so he's actually lower than stock. He runs a ARC clutch perch and lever. I move the kill switch as far inside as possible just to avoid it getting hit in the event of a crash, or sometimes their knees get up there in corners. He's got a OEM Yamaha front brake lever and a G3 ergonomics throttle tube. I just do wire tie, no glue. He doesn't really like the glue. You can start to feel it in your hands. Some riders can. So Luxon's old clamp actually had an open window at the bottom, which allowed for the split bottom, and Jeremy preferred more of a stiffer clamp, so Billy actually made an entirely new clamp and closed up the windows on top and bottom. Yoshi and Ross at Enzo KYB have a good suspension setup. 3mm fork height in the clamp. Jeremy's strong suit is cornering, so he really likes to set his bike up to be able to corner really well. So we use an OEM front brake system. We just wire tie the bolts to prevent them from cracking loose in the event of a crash or something. OEM brake line to a OEM caliper. We run a Golfer solid front brake rotor, and it's protected by an Achirby's brake disc. Just OEM. We played around with Ty and OEM, and he settled with the OEM one. W is doing our wheels this year, so we have an Excel rim with a W hub, and I just wire tie the spokes. Sometimes first corners or someone goes to make an aggressive pass, you can get foot pegs caught up in there, and if they get wrapped up in the brake disc, then sometimes the wheel will lock up and that cause you to not finish the race. We put Dunlop spec tires on those. He's been on the same front tire for, I want to say, as long as they've had it out and as long as he's been on Dunlop, so he doesn't really change too much. P3 makes us a custom carbon airbox cover. It's opened up. We have the back of the airbox open up. The Yamahas like to breathe as much air as possible, so the more airflow usually equals snappier response. We run a DT1 high flow air filter kit, and we run the same for supercross and outdoors. Outdoors will close off some of the air vents as the roost is a little worse and the air filter will get a lot dirtier. Guts gives us Phantom foam. It's actually stock height, and Jeremy prefers the 6-rib seat cover. He likes a broken seat, so I'll usually put it on the practice bike for a week, and then we'll pull it off and we'll race with it 2 or 3 times, and then it goes into the garbage. Jamie Ellis at Twisted Development, he does the engine and mapping, does an incredible job. Jeremy settled on a package that he liked. We had a couple options to try. Yeah, he settled on this one. It's more of a smoother power. He doesn't really like it to hit too hard. You know, he's got to be able to ride it for 15 minutes. He's a smaller guy too, so yeah, for him it was more about smoothness over snappy. GYTR billet ignition cover and a Hinson clutch cover on the other side. OEM shifter, plug it with silicone, keep mud out. Swing arm pivot is just OEM, and I put a Race Tech titanium nut on there, and again just plug the end with silicone, keep mud out of all the holes. He's on a Flow titanium peg paired up with a Race Tech mount. We made a slight modification to the Race Tech mount just to give him a little more comfort. Anchor tape provides us with some really good frame tape. Jeremy's never really liked it on his side plates, just on the frame. So subframe is OEM, same height, and we just weld the tabs on the side of the frame for extra support in the event of a crash. Or when he came to us, we started him on a 10mm cut subframe. Enzo KYB rear shock, again Ross and Yoshi, stock linkage nuts. Run Mika chain and sprockets. He's on a 1350 gearing with a long wheelbase. Chain guides and sliders are all OEM. We just clean them up, make them look nice, give them a little shine. Excel rim with a W hub, wire tied spokes again for safety, paired up with a Dunlop tire. This is the first year he's ran this tire. It's their new one, and he really likes it. 120s, it's tricky on 250s because they rob a lot of power, so. OEM rear brake system. Again, wire tie the bolts just to prevent them from coming loose in the event of a crash or if someone hits you. We cover the rear brake caliper with a P3 carbon guard. OEM axle with a Race Tech titanium nut. They make a pretty trick looking nut. OEM rear master cylinder, and we Cerakote all of our brake parts, just give them a little bit of a different look than stock. Runs a full FMF system front to back. It's actually the production system. They weld that little guard on the side. I think it's pretty standard for them now. Guys crush the pipes in with their boot. Example, Garrett Marchbanks, he squeezes really hard, so they put that on there. A guy like Jeremy probably could go without it, but 5.2 additive made us a cool 3D printed swing arm plug. It's got a little lip on it to keep the brake pedal from going up in the event of hitting a tough block or something, and it'll rip the guts out of the master cylinder. OEM brake pedal. Jeremy actually likes his pedal tip extended, so we moved it forward 10 mil, and then we put a brake snake on it. Sometimes they catch them on tough blocks and it'll rip the pedal around, so the brake snake will just hold it in place. You got a full Hinson clutch setup, basket, inner hub, and pressure plate. He runs Hinson fibers and steels. He's right in the middle for stiffness of the springs. Doesn't really burn them up. I could go the same day on a whole clutch if we really wanted to. Rec MX gives us a cool billet oil filter cover. It's got the club blue, matches our triple clamps. Boyson water cover. It's actually just a cover. We run the electric water pump, so that case is welded on the inside. It's more of just a looks thing. The electric water pump is new to us this year. We started testing with it at the end of last year, and it was significant improvements on the dyno and the rider's feel. OEM engine mounts, and Jeremy prefers the Race Tech titanium bolts to mount those babies on. OEM radiator hoses. We run a carbon guard on the front one. First turn crashes, foot pegs get in there, and they're so sharp they can rip hoses and cause you to not finish races, so just a little extra protection there. P3 carbon makes a really nice skid plate for us, lightweight and durable. We run a 1.8 radiator cap, and we just put a little key in there to keep it from coming off. You never know what could happen. Just a little more pressure to keep it from blowing off. Screen on the rad louvers for this weekend, just to try and keep some of the sand, and if it turns to a mudder, keep the mud out as well. Tamer makes us a 2-stage Holeshot device, gives us options. We typically run it in the bottom hole, and it's 175 right now, so he's fairly deep. He's the deepest one on the team, which is funny because he's the smallest guy, but that's just how he likes it. Tamer gives us fork guard braces, little extra support. The supercross suspension is so stiff these days that it's putting a lot of force on that fork guard. This weekend is Military Appreciation Week. SKDA provided us with a sweet kit. Acherbys provided us with the plastics to match. We use muck off stuff, muck off cleaner, silicone shine, chain lube, all that on the bike. Our stuff works really, really good. So firepower battery and firepower oil filters in the engine. We run a Kawasaki kill switch too. We run the air breather hose out of the valve cover up and over the cross member of the frame, just to try and keep some of the oil in. Radiator overflow hose out the other side. It just makes it easier if the bike is blowing smoke. If it's coming from the left, you know it's cooling. If it's coming from the right, you know it's coming from the engine. VP MR Pro 6 fuel. We've been using them for a while. They have really good stuff. Jeremy runs his steering probably the tightest I've ever seen it. Typically have to do bearings and re-grease pretty well every weekend. We use a Vortex ignition. Jamie's really familiar with the Vortexes, so he can map to what the riders want. He has really good start maps too. All the bolts on the bike are provided by Race Tech titanium. But yeah, we got a brand new race shop to work out of, so we're all super grateful for that. We kind of like being the underdogs, but we're also here to play. We're trying to show you, you don't need these big factory budgets and factory parts to build a competitive bike. We have all the resources we need to be competitive with the top teams and go out and win. So that's what we're here to do.